to winning, never to lose. When we talk about vacation, though, it's always a cruise. It's Tony and Tommy with a TNT schmooze. Cruise Talk Weekly and we lighten the fuse.
Cruise Talk Weekly. Except we didn't do it last week. That's completely my bad. But we're back this week. I am co-host Tony along with co-host Tommy. I'm here on the nature coast of Florida, north of Tampa. And, well, Tommy, he's on the east coast of Florida, down near Boca Raton. Tommy, we're both back in our studios, man. How you been?
Welcome home, Tony. I didn't know they call it the Nature Coast. That's a moniker that the west coast of Florida has. I really didn't know. I'm on the, I believe it's the Treasure Coast, I think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, certainly with you being there, I could attest that it is the Treasure Coast.
Oh, very nice.
How about
All
that?
right.
How about
We're still
that?
in the Catskills.
We got the cheese going heavy. Look, we both, over the last few weeks, we've been on some pretty interesting adventures. You had your Pirates and Pier Runners group cruise, and then I just came back from our La Lita Loca East Coast group cruise. It could be renamed We Cruise During a Storm group cruise. But I think this is a great topic for today. There's, there's regular cruising. People know what that is. But there's also this other aspect of cruising, and we're going to call it theme cruising and group cruising. And we both have some experience in that. So I figured we'd take the first part of the show, and we would talk about theme cruises and group cruises. Let's talk about theme cruises first. This is a whole nother segment of cruising that you can get into. The cool thing about cruising is you're already cruising with like-minded people. One of the coolest things that happens on most cruise ships, now there'll be some exceptions to this rule, but most of the time when you go on a cruise, sometimes you're with multiples of thousands of people, and nobody really cares about politics. And nobody really cares about religion, and nobody really cares about all those things that people get uptight about. Most of the people are just there to cruise, and you can meet people from all walks of life and have that connection because of cruising. And I think that's pretty common for most cruisers. Well, the second layer of that, in my opinion, is a theme cruise, where not only you take the camaraderie of being cruisers, but you lay a fandom on top of it. What was your first theme cruise experience?
Well, I'm a one and done when it comes to theme cruises, and that makes absolutely no sense because I had a incredible time. It was the Florida Georgia Line country kind of cruise, because this is how we cruise, taking a little play off of one of their songs. You just nailed it. I mean, there is really, really very little more enjoyment that I've ever gotten on a cruise when it was, like you just said, like-minded people enjoying something that we all kind of like were enthusiastic about on land. Now put us on a cruise. It blew me away. Absolutely.
Yeah, some of the coolest things about just regular cruising is every day you go on a cruise, there's a daily schedule of events. There's going to be some trivia. There's always some food. But when you go on a group cruise, that again, it's almost like regular cruising to the next level. There's a daily schedule of events, but all of those events seem to tie into the theme. The country music cruise sounds pretty amazing. Was there one artist or one draw that said, "Hey, I got to book this theme cruise"?
Well, at the time, Florida Georgia Line was big. I still think, they can be looked at as a little campy when it comes to country. But there was a moment on that cruise. Dustin Lynch is a country artist, and he was one of the supporting acts. And to what you just said, like-minded people, there was one moment where, he was doing his regular set, featured on the pool deck, everybody having fun, everybody enjoying it. I found my way into a hot tub. And when you talk about being, like, this guy did Madison Square Garden a couple of months later, but now you're in a hot tub with about 6 or 7 other people passing around a bottle of Fireball, and then you're on your way to Cozumel, Mexico right now, on a ship, and then he just strips it down, tells the band to take a break, gets a stool and plays an acoustic version of an old Tim McGraw song, and you're just looking up at this. Everything's great. I mean, that's just a little self-serving as far as what I loved about it. But, you can, like you said, you had the 80s cruise. There are, cryptocurrency cruises out there. A lot of times it does go well with music. Music does seem to be a lot of the theme. You have that Sixth Man group that did such a great job. They call them Festivals at Sea. I think they were bought out by Norwegian, but there is really so many options when it comes to themed cruises. There's websites dedicated to it. So if you have an interest in something, do a search. See if there's a theme cruise around what you like.
Yeah, absolutely. I did 2 in 2025. Those were my first experiences with themed cruises. The first one I went on was the Comic-Con cruise, and that was hosted. I mean, the company that put that cruise on is Entertainment Cruise Productions. So Six Man is the big name. This Entertainment Cruise Productions, they also have a pretty good lineup of themed cruises. They do like the Star Trek cruise. They do the 80s cruise, the 90s cruise. They do a 70s cruise. They also do now the Comic-Con cruise. But that was in partnership with the actual Comic-Con people from San Diego. So I've never had the opportunity to go to really what's considered the GOAT, I guess, of all Comic-Cons in San Diego. But it was kind of like the next best thing, all the same branding and theming. That was really cool because, it was kind of a sci-fi themed Comic-Con cruise. So we had actors that were from Battlestar Galactica and some from Star Trek and from Star Wars. And it was really neat to see those people walking around and enjoying that cruise life. And then I did enjoy it so much, and talking to the people at ECP, I went ahead and went on the 80s cruise. One of my favorite bands of all time is Men at Work. And I think that was the thing that put me over the top. Men at Work was playing, but I saw, Men at Work and Sheila E. and Adam Ant. I saw Christopher Cross on that cruise. I saw Faster Pussycat. I saw the legendary pop star Tiffany. And so it was really neat to have that experience. And more so, again, there weren't any celebrities on there that you would probably see on the big screen or even on TV right now, but it was wild to have, to be 10 feet away from somebody that was so iconic in the 80s, that kind of thing. And I think that's one of the cool appeals about the theme cruise is not only do you get the fun of cruising, but you also get access to these celebrities that you just don't get in real life. And it seems like they enjoy cruising too. So that's the interesting thing about it. The other thing I guess we should mention about theme cruises, though, is these are premium experiences. And so, to your point, there's almost a theme cruise for everything. But to take a cruise from a regular cruise to one of these theme cruise experiences, they are engaging a company like Six Man or Entertainment Cruise Productions. So the cruise is usually more expensive. But I was just thinking, I read a news story this week. There's a wrestling cruise out there, and I don't think we've ever talked about whether you're a wrestling fan or not a wrestling fan. But this guy, Chris Jericho, puts on a wrestling cruise every year. But in the wrestling space is one of the greatest rivalries of all time. When I was a kid, wrestling used to exist in pockets around the countries, and they call them promotions, right? So there would be regional promotions. But then the WWF, which eventually had to change its name for legal reasons to WWE, they figured out how to consolidate a lot of that and then get on TV, and they became really the juggernaut of wrestling promotions. But there's a competitor promotion called AEW. These are the two. This is the North and South Civil War. It's really not geographical, but if you want to think of it in an analogy term, it's an epic battle between WWE and AEW. And Chris Jericho has dabbled with both of those promotions. Well, apparently his allegiance is to the WWE right now, because one of the biggest articles that I saw this week were wrestling fans saying that the lineup for the Jericho cruise came out and none of the wrestlers from the AEW promotion were invited, where they had been previously. So it's funny how even those kind of, it's almost like if you went to a NASCAR thing where, there's such a brand loyalty that, but yeah, theme cruises are great. I'm going back on the Comic-Con cruise volume 2 this year, taking a bunch of my nerdy kids with me, and the lovely Jenny B, which really, she can only put up with one nerd at a time. So it's going to be fun to see her in out of her element on the Comic-Con cruise. But yeah, so, and then, another variation of the theme cruise, which is kind of a weird phenomena, would be the group cruise. Now, these are, I guess we should say on theme cruises, those are normally full ship charters. But in the world of, travel agents and content creators, there's a whole nother subculture of cruising, and that's called the group cruise. Now, it doesn't have to be based around a content creator. Of course, your cruise, my cruise. People come to cruise because they know the content that we create. But I've seen group cruises form around book clubs or knitting. I ran into a small group on the cruise that I was on that was a group cruise of RVers. And so, theme cruise, when you think of that, you think of full ship charter. But when you think of a group cruise, you just think of a pile of people coming together on a particular cruise and having group activities. Let's talk about your cruise. So how many years have you done Pirates and Pier Runner? What episode of Pirates and Pier Runner was this?
Well, this started. The first one was in January of 2020, and it was it's a good kind of contrast because I think our groups are different in sizes. I definitely do it a little bit more modest of a group. You definitely have a larger group, but I think it's interesting. So yeah, we're 5 years in. You were on one of them, and you understand like when it's a little bit more of an intimate group, a smaller group. You're kind of traveling in sort of like one pack. And of course, it's important to notate that even with groups that size, little subgroups break out in that environment as well. But I would say you probably have to, so with me is I try to manage the whole thing. I try to engage with everybody. I kind of know where everybody is at most of the time. And that's my group in, the 20 range. I would say your group, it would pretty much be next to impossible to do that, right?
Yeah, so it's interesting. We started doing group cruises. I think we might have had our first one in 2018, and then we got into a cycle where we had an annual Halloween group cruise, and then I think we were even up to maybe having 2 other group cruises a year. They weren't necessarily tied to an event or a date or anything like that. And this one that we just did, we've taken maybe 18 or close to 2 years away from doing group cruises. So this was just a small one to get our feet wet, but at its peak, we would have a couple hundred people with us on a group cruise. And so it evolved over time. When the group was smaller in the beginning, it was a lot more personal and you would get to do a thing. But then as it got bigger, you kind of had to manage and program. And so the way we got to it in the end is, we always have a check-in on day one. What we tell people when they come on a group cruise with us is we're going to have some events that Jenny B and I are always going to be at. If you've come to see Jenny B and I, there's going to be connection points throughout that cruise so that you can get that satisfaction of seeing Jenny B and I, which is a weird thing to talk about, right? Like I almost have to disassociate. And when you're managing this thing, you're like, okay, as weird as it is, because I'm just a dude in a room making videos, as weird as it is, there's people out there that would like to come say hello, take a picture, shake a hand, all that stuff. And it's wonderful to me because that's affirmation that people like the show. So when people say, hey, we want to come on your group cruise, we try to program events where people can have that connection point. So where we kind of got to at the end, we would always have a check-in on day one, a meet and greet, get to see everybody. We always give out some sort of swag that helps denote people as members of the group. And then a big thing for us as a connection point is dinner in the main dining room. We've been fortunate with the cruise lines that we work with that we're able to get a group of tables, and we would have dinner in the main dining room. And what we try to do when Jenny and I are there, we'll either sit at separate tables or we'll sit at the same table, and we will work as many people throughout the week throughout our table so they can have a dinner with us. And then we usually try to have another event like a cocktail party. We did a really fascinating thing on this one. We actually got a 2-hour karaoke event to close out the last day of the cruise for us. So we got together as a group and we kind of shared memories of the cruise, and then we did karaoke for 2 hours, which was really a blast. But then as it got bigger and bigger, we started we would bring my daughter, we would bring friends. And so not only would we have what we would call core events where Jenny B and I would be at, but we would also have community-led events. So like my daughter Danielle would lead like a photo scavenger hunt. And so you get a connection point with Danielle. But I tell you the magic of the group cruise and the reason that I think they're good is I have countless stories of people that have come on La Lita Loca group cruises that now have nothing to do with Jenny and I that are friends and lifelong friends from this experience. So, back to what we were saying at the beginning, cruising is a connection point of common interest. But then, if you follow Always Be Booked, you follow La Lita Loca, then you have that also. And so it's really interesting because it's really easy to make friends. We've had tons of solo cruisers come and be connected with other solo cruisers. We We have couples that cruise together. I think while we were on our cruise last week, a couple couples that we knew that had made friends on a group cruise were cruising around the world somewhere. So it's really a neat way to, I think, do two things. Again, people like to meet us, and it too. People like to meet you that are that listen to what your podcast and watch your videos, and the same for me. And so it's nice to give people that access, because it's hard sometimes. You can't be all access all the time, right? People are calling you up like, can I take you to lunch, or can I stop by your town or something like that, and you're like, well, that's just not manageable. But when you make these group cruises, that does give people access to you. And so it's pretty wild. It's pretty fun, man. But we had a blast. We had a crazy cruise last week, because when we planned the cruise, it's interesting. All cruising during storm season is a little bit not crazy risky, but there's a minor risk that your cruise can be disrupted by storms. And that was certainly the story of our cruise last week. Our cruise was an East Coast cruise where we flew into New York. We had itineraries that included a stop in Newport, Rhode Island, in Portland, Maine. We had a stop in St. John in New Brunswick, and we had a stop in Halifax in Nova Scotia, and we had a stop in Boston. And we didn't go to two of those cruise ports. We got to New York, and everything seemed fine. And the day of the cruise, a nor'easter kind of bore down on New York. We had to skedaddle out of there, and the storm was so bad that we couldn't even go to Newport, Rhode Island. We immediately had to go to Boston, and then we ended up kind of sheltering in Boston for 3 days as the storm passed us. I'd never had a scenario. The day we were supposed to leave and go to Portland, Maine, the harbor pilots called the ship and said, yeah, we're closing down the harbor. Yeah, I know you're supposed to leave. I know the weather's supposed to be fantastic when you get to Portland, Maine tomorrow, but none of our guys are going to pilot you out of this harbor. So you're shut down for tonight. We'll come back to you tomorrow. And so it turned out to be an interesting scenario. It wasn't, we missed a lot of ports, and the weather was horrible, but we did have that nice fun of being there as a group. Now, your group cruise, on the other hand, I saw sunny pictures from Curacao. I know you got to go to Celebration Key. How did this version of Pirates and Pier Runners turn? The one I went on was fantastic. I had a blast. So I'm assuming this is just more of that.
Well, yeah. I mean, you saw how that one went. This one was much the same of that one as far as the dynamic. We have a few people who really don't like to miss any of them. And then, it just certain things that go swimmingly and smoothly the whole time. And yeah, I think, I just get flashbacks thinking about you as far as kind of like making events and making sure that you're at certain events, and then other events are sort of optional. But I was going to kind of go back to you in that regard and ask you, like, as far as access, and it very much is weird to even talk, because we're both men in our 50s, and we're like, when most of our lives kind of being like fitting into the world, and then all of a sudden now there's people that notice us and recognize us, and then people that are going on cruises because of us. How do you balance? How do you feel? Or was there any time on your cruise where you felt like you were disappointing anyone with access to you?
So it's something I had to resolve. I think one of the reasons we took a break is because when you think about this group cruise experience logically, so we have one more, and we haven't decided whether we're going to keep doing them, but I do like the idea of being available so that people that want to meet us can meet us. And I'm not 100% convinced that group cruise is the way to do that, because it's a tough commitment to be on and available for 7 or 8 days at a time. And that's something I always worry about. That was what I worried about from the very first group cruise, because say you get 10 people together, say you get 100 people together, you're constantly thinking about, are the 10 people happy? Are the 50 people happy? Are the 100 people happy? Are the 200 people happy? But it's an unsolvable problem, because what happens is everybody has their own expectation of what that cruise is going to be like, and there's really no way to solve the expectation problem for 10 people. There's really, it's hard. Like, if you've traveled in a group at all, it's hard to come to some sort of consensus of satisfaction. And so I guess I got to the place where I'm going to do the best that I can. I'm going to try to be mindful of people's feelings. I'm going to be as available as I can. You know, I don't hide in my room. I'm always out and about. I'm always out trying to sit somewhere and talk to people and do the best I can to make time for everybody. And I feel pretty good at the end of the day that I do that the best that I can do. But it's always in your mind. Like, you're looking at people in the eyes on the last night, or you're even in the middle of the cruise and you're like, is that person happy? Is that person satisfied? Because I would hate the idea that somebody would come to do something because your name's on it and they just want to see you and then they're disappointed. But I gotta think there's no, I would be naive to think that there's not always going to be somebody disappointed, and you just kind of do the best you can. I really, that's one of the reasons why we stopped doing the group cruise, because that feeling haunts me. I would rather not do the thing than to have people disappointed, which is just kind of the way I'm wired.
What's your take on the grouping? Because I was going to ask, like, when you walk around the ship, you talk to people, and you know you're engaging. I've seen you in action, and you certainly are. Now, when you have a couple of hundred people cruising in your group, I would imagine it's tough always to kind of like, and this is a two-parter, Tony. The first question is, do you feel as though you have to kind of assume they're in your group? Are you ever in a situation where you're talking to somebody and you have to assume they're in your group because you don't know that they are, but you know what? They might be, and they paid to come on your group cruise, so you should know you should know who's in your group. And then B, the booking process. Do you feel as though people who try to jump on the group cruise but haven't booked through you or through Jenny? What's your stance on that? Is it a strict policy?
So it's a wild thing. So, and you know, I'm not trying to be a jerk, but you know, sometimes people are pretty highfalutin about the group cruises. One of the reasons that content creators do group cruises is there is a financial component to it. So if you're a travel agent and you're booking a group cruise, or if you're just for us, so we have a partner now, Where's Walter Travel is our travel agent. He did all the cruise bookings for us, but we got a percentage of the commission, right? So we're definitely, group cruise is a revenue stream for most content creators. Now, I'm sure there's going to be a few that and you know, they say, oh, I don't care about that at all, but I think they're few and far between. Now, I mean, there's part of me that doesn't care anything about the money. It's nice to get out there and be with the people, but then I think most of the time people that are doing these big events are because there's a financial component to it. That being said, I don't think we spend a lot of money to do these group cruises too. But so to your point, I try to cheat a little bit. Like, I'll give them a lanyard and say, hey man, try to wear this lanyard, because I want some way to indicate that these people are in the group cruise. Now, fortunately, with the 40 or 50 people, you know, meeting them on the first day, it was pretty, you know, like I'm spending an hour trying to get these faces in my mind, because a lot of people know me, and that's the challenge. Because you know, when I first came back after the shutdown, people would stop, yell my name, and I would stop. And I would just be talking for 10 or 15 minutes, and then I would go 10 more feet, and then I would have to stop. And so eventually I learned that I can't stop and talk to everybody. But on the group cruise, I want to talk to everybody that's in my group. So I'm looking for cues that these folks are cruising with me. I'm never not speaking to anybody or spending time with anybody, but I do have to be mindful. Like, if I'm going to a dinner or something like that, I can't just stop for half an hour.
Right. Totally. No, that makes sense. Yeah, because I can see on my smaller scale, like it can be challenging. I was just curious how you navigate that, because I've been on cruises with you and I've been in port with you, and I'm here to attest that is absolutely 100% the case. And I don't know how I would handle that, but you handle it very, very graciously. And yeah, it's got to be still interesting for you, but you do a phenomenal job with it.
Well, yeah. I mean, I appreciate you saying that. I'm just to the place now that if I'm in public on a cruise ship and somebody talks to me, I'm going to try to talk to them. But I'm better and better now of just making that as economical and as meaningful as possible, right? Like, that's because if not, I would. You know, the hard thing for me is. I'm still just trying to go on a cruise. You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing. A lot of times, you know, I've shelled out my money and I'm just trying to go see a thing or do a thing. And, you know, I just appreciate the fact that everybody loves the show, but I can't really do the show and get the experience that I want if I don't get to do some cruise stuff. So it's a weird balance to strike.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because speaking of theme cruises, we were having a conversation a while back about possibly going on a very a genre that is close to both of our hearts, stand-up comedy. And Nate Bargatze was doing a Sixth Man stand-up comedy cruise, and you knew he was going to have his wild band of comedian friends with him, so that would have been phenomenal. But I think it was sold out by the time we had even kind of put it on our radar. But I just think that it's very, very tough, and I would say that comedians like that. Let's just put this in perspective. So we would go on this theme cruise, and I'm not trying to gas you up, Tony, but we would go on this theme cruise with Nate Bargatze and all these people. I would say that you probably have more subscribers than maybe everybody on that cruise that was performing besides Nate Bargatze. So the only reason I say that is to say, there is a certain level. You want to call it cruise famous, you want to call it whatever, but there is a demand for your time. And just like you wouldn't expect maybe a solid working comedian or actor who to necessarily be able to dominate their time, you can't dominate your time either, because, again, you're just by followership, just by subscribers, you're double some of them. So it's got to be tough, and I commend you for the work you do.
It's a weird thing. I think one thing, swinging back around, the nice thing about the Comic-Con cruise and about the 80s cruise is I wasn't super well known, which was nice, because I was just able to kind of go enjoy that experience. The funny thing about the Comic-Con cruise, Comic-Con's an interesting thing. So once you get to a certain level of celebrity and maybe you're not working as much, one of your big revenue sources is the autograph and the photograph. So like there were people on that Comic-Con cruise, it costs $150 to get a photograph with them. It costs $100 to get their autograph. And they're very open on this cruise ship that if you see the guy that was in the Ghostbusters at the buffet, you don't take his picture, you don't hassle him, that kind of thing. And so the funny joke for me is I probably took more pictures standing around the cruise ship than any of these guys, because you had to go to some secret room somewhere to pay the $150 to do that. But then on the 80s cruise, it was completely the opposite. These old rockers, they were happy to get their picture taken. They were happy to interact with the people for no money, So it's a whole wild thing. The cruise, I had some wild experiences. I was in St. John, in Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia. And, that's St. John in New Brunswick. Halifax is in Nova Scotia. And people on the streets that live in St. John recognize me, which it's a cruise town, which is fine.
Yeah.
But that's always a weird one, too, when you're just in a town somewhere. I'm used to getting recognized on cruise ships, airports, and casinos. But then sometimes you're just bebopping around a town somewhere, and they're like, hey, you're the guy. It's like, it's a wild phenomenon, really.
The numbers show it. The numbers show it. And just getting back to what we were talking about before regarding the group cruise and what's ethics as far as joining the group and expectation of, yes, the revenue thing is not something we should carry any guilt with, because we do work pretty hard. This occupies a lot of our time. And while it is, I would say in many cases, well, for me, I would have to say it's a hobby. For you, it's your full-time employment right now. So, revenue streams are a real thing, and it is not to be, I guess, because certain people say, well, what are you all about the money? You're all about the money. That's not what it is. It's like we work hard to put these shows together, and you know what? You try to say, okay, well, how can we turn this into a couple of dollars here and there? And the group cruise is a way to do that. But then the rebuttal a lot of times will be, yeah, but the rates I'm going to get from you are not the same as the rates that I'm going to get from this third party hole in the wall company that I'll never be able, or I get it. The thing about me, my rebuttal to that is, well, that's a little bit of a premium that you kind of have to deal with when you're booking a group cruise. Just like you talked about with the theme cruise, you're not necessarily going to pay the same thing on the Norwegian Pearl for a 4-night Florida Bahama cruise as you would if, some of the biggest and best artists out there are playing. Now, we're not at that level. I'm not saying I'm not at that level, certainly, but this is an experience. We're paying for an experience, and you're being part of a group, and you're being welcomed into a circle of people where, yeah, you know what? It may be $50, $75, $125 more, but to me, that's almost kind of part of the game, no?
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I realized I didn't answer your question. Yeah, so it's a process, and I guess I do want to lay that out there. That's why you have to book the group cruise the way you're supposed to. So if there's a travel agent in charge of the bookings that are putting the events together, you have to book through them if you want to participate in the group cruise activities. The way I always say it is, if you see me on a cruise ship, I'm going to spend time with you. I'm going to say, how you doing? But if you're not in our group, I'm not going to invite you to be a part of our group activities, because money's been spent by people to, lock down rooms, to provide swag, to do all these things. And that money has to be generated somewhere, and the way that is generated is through whoever's booking those group cruises. The weirdest thing, we can have a whole interesting conversation about this, because if you think about it, the money for group cruises really comes from the commission from the travel agent, and the travel agent still has to do travel agent work that they're not getting any additional money because it is a group cruise. Now, there's a whole component that if you book enough cabins, there's extra money, that kind of stuff. But it's funny, where a theme cruise, there's going to be a travel agent component. They're going to get commissions for booking those cruises, but then the talent that shows up for those theme cruises are paid in a separate way. And so the wild thing about just a regular content creator group cruise, there's really no talent fee, which is again, it's, some people will push back. I'm not, I am unashamed about the fact that content creation is a business. I'm happy to create stuff. I'm very excited that people love the stuff that we create, but so that we can create stuff, we have to treat this like a business, unless we want to do it as a hobby. If it's a hobby, all bets are off. But if you're somebody that's in the game and you're trying to make content as a content creator, you have to treat it like a creative person, and you also have to treat it like a business. And part of that business is funding your ability to create. And so a lot of it goes into that. Yeah, you're going to have a minor vocal minority. You're going to have a vocal minority out there that says, oh, people are just in it for the money, that kind of thing. And I don't know what to tell those people. It's like, yeah, I guess, if that's what you want to say, that's fine. But still, I think most people get it, and most people understand, hey, I've got to book through this person for the group cruise if I want to have this group interaction. But it's weird because people are like, oh, I got a casino cruise, or hey, I wanted to go on your group cruise, but I could get a better rate booking on my own. Can I come to the thing? And I'm like, man, love you, mean it, but no, you can't come to the thing, unfortunately, because if you want the thing is, this is the way you get the thing, and that way, everything's appropriate. And so it's a hard stance, and in the beginning, I didn't like to take that stance, but I would do it in the beginning, because to me, that's right is right. These structures are in place for a reason, and and I'm sure I've made people mad along the way, but that's the way it goes. But I think it's also unfair to the person that paid to be a part of the thing that's exclusive to dilute that exclusivity, right? If you're just going to let everybody in, then why it's no longer special to the person that paid for it to be special.
100%. And just a quick question about your cruise, just in general. I know it was a group cruise, a lot going on, weather, the whole bit. Now, we talk about regions. You got the Med, you got Asia, you have the Caribbean, you have Alaska. Everybody has their favorite little corner. A kind of like a forgotten part of the cruising corridors is that, Atlantic Northeast section, the Maine, the Canadas, the Boston. How do you like navigating around the Northeast?
So I'm a Midwestern guy that spent most of my life in Nashville, Tennessee. I now live in a very hot Florida, and I have a lot of Northeastern sensibilities. So I love those cities. I love the culture. I love the idea of it being a little cooler. And so the way that this group cruise started, Jenny had not been on that itinerary before, and I went on it one time, and I really loved it. I don't really care about the fall foliage. I've seen leaves change in places, stuff like that. But I like the idea of being in New York City. I like the idea of being in Boston. I like the idea of trying to understand what a Providence, Rhode Island is. And then I like going up into those Maritimes in Canada, where that's a whole different lifestyle than what I'm used to. I love it. So when I decided to go on that cruise, I talked Jenny into it because I need to make a list of questions that annoy me. One of the things that annoys me the most is, where's Jenny? How come you didn't let Jenny come on this cruise? And Jenny, there's no letting Jenny do anything. That woman cruises when she wants to cruise. I would love Jenny to be with me all the time, but sometimes she doesn't want to go, and so and I still have to go. So I got her to go on this Maritimes cruise. because she's from New York, and I think she would love to see some of those places in Canada. And so that was the beginning of it. And then somewhere on a live stream, just for fun, because we hadn't done I'm a little too spontaneous. I was like, hey man, maybe we should make this a group cruise. And then a bunch of people said, yeah, make it a group cruise. And that's how we did it. So we ended up with 60 lovely people that went with us, and we weren't really planning it. But I don't know. What was your original question, Tommy? I like that area, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
It is very nice. I like the lobster. I like the music. We had a DJ on our Carnival Splendor cruise that was from that area, but he was also a DJ, and it was kind of cool because he played a lot of the local music while we were in port if you got back early. But yeah, those nice big lobster rolls too. Delicious.
Oh, yeah. We started out in New York for a couple days, and I've only been to the city a couple times, and I've never really. I love everything that the city has to offer, good, bad, ugly, and I really need to spend more time there. Our buddy Walter got us a group hotel at Broadway and 54th, so I could go out of my hotel, turn a right, and the Ed Sullivan Theater was there, where Letterman did a show, where Colbert does a show. I could look down Broadway, and I only had a full day from that location, but I ate food off of the food carts. I walked to the Museum of Modern Art. I walked up and down Broadway. I walked to St. Patrick's. I went to Rockefeller Center, and all of that stuff motivates me so much because that city, it can't. There's 8 million people, I think, or more on Manhattan Island, and you can't have that influx of humanity without magic happening. A good, bad, and ugly. Like I said, there's all kinds of things going on with that many people, but what a cultural hub of so many things. And then we were in Boston, and I stayed on the ship in Boston just because it was raining sideways, and somebody scolded me in the comments last night, like, when it's raining at home, do you stay in your house? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. If I've got something more interesting to do in my house than go out and get soaked in the rain, then I'm staying in. I wish the weather was better in Boston because I had a great excursion book that I ended up canceling where I was going to go to Lexington and Concord to see where the Revolutionary War started, then go to Harvard Yard, go to Quincy Market. There's so much unexplored stuff in the Northeast for me that any chance I get to go, I got to go up there.
The New York City thing hits me at my core because, you don't know what you got till it's gone, is the old adage. But, I had my run there where we were, working in the city for 10, 15 years. But then I took the N and the Q subway to that stop right there, right at Rockefeller Center every day for 6 years. And, it never got old. It really just doesn't get old. I'm from Long Island. I'm from a town called East Rockaway, which is kind of like a little bit close to the border, the Queens Long Island border, but which I just wish I wish I could say I have to say Long Island, I guess. It just bothers me to no end that I got to say Long Island, but it's close. But anyway, yeah, just what you just said, there is an electricity to that city that is palpable only if you're there. I stayed at a hotel one time when I was living in Florida, right where you said, called the Ameritania Hotel, which is right in that area. And it was the same thing. You look out your window, the Ed Sullivan Theater, good, authentic Sbarro's New York pizza, right?
That's where we were. That's where we stayed.
Yeah. I was
that
kidding
hotel.
about the Sbarro's, but yeah. Wait, that hotel?
Yeah, we stayed in that hotel. Yeah, the Ameritania.
The Ameritania?
Yeah.
Yeah, see that when you said that, I was like, maybe that's the same hotel, but I thought you said a different name. But yeah, that's it. Perfect location. But the one thing about New York City is, right, you could start walking, and then you could just blocks just fly by, right?
Yeah, it's crazy. The first time I went to the city, Jenny's dad is from the Bronx, and he drove this huge Lincoln car that was all dinged up. Most aggressive driver I've ever been with. 6'5", Jewish man who sounded like every Jewish stereotype you could imagine, but he played basketball for Hofstra, and he's a New Yorker, and he loves the city. And we're driving around New York, and he's bumper to bumper, horns blowing, and at one point he goes, "Look, I got to go back to work. Get out." And we just got out, and he probably let us off somewhere good, but we just start walking. It's a Tuesday in New York. We walk through Chinatown. There's smells that I experienced on that walk through Chinatown that I've never experienced in my life. You know, we went through the main street of Chinatown, a lot of restaurants, a lot of shops, that kind of thing. We went down a back alley and people are just like selling fish. You know, like, where's this fish come from? They're just selling fish. And then we go over 2 blocks and it's the San Gennaro Festival in Little Italy. A scene that you've only seen in movies, or I've only seen in movies. And all of a sudden on a Tuesday, I'm in the middle of San Gennaro. And I'm like, what is this city? Like, what is this? You know, and from block to block, pizzeria, deli, like every kind of cuisine. And because there's so many people there, every block has that. Even when you get out to Long Island, it's exactly like that. But yeah, we had one night in New York, and we had to make the choice. Are we going to have pizza or are we going to have deli? And so we had this crazy large pastrami and corned beef on rye from a deli just around the corner. It was a sandwich we ate on for the couple days that we were in New York. It was fantastic. No New York pizza. I do regret that. But then right across from that hotel was just a little food cart. So I was getting a bacon cheese sandwich every morning on a roll. I was just living the dream, you know. I did sneak into Starbucks once. I felt a little dirty going to Starbucks. You know, I should have had something more local. But man, I got to go back. Like, that's what I was telling Jenny. You know, we hit these places on cruise ships sometimes, but we have the flexibility to really where we could go find the best season, like a spring where it's, you know, not too cold, not too hot, but like, you know, a week in Boston, week in New York, just all those cities that are close enough to kind of live around there. It was great. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun, even though we had bad weather.
We would always just take advantage of being tourists in our own city. We would just we'd be at work. If it was slow during the day, we got a bunch of work done during the day, and it was before our night hit. We would just say, let's get on a bus. Let's just get on one of those big red buses. That's the best thing to do if you're a tourist, as crazy as that sounds. You just can just ride all day and kind of see all the neighborhoods. But, you know, they said the Super Bowl, when they did the Super Bowl in New York City, they'll never be back in New York City because everywhere the Super Bowl goes, it's such a revenue jolt. It's such an overtaking. It's such a, the ground zero for all things that are going on in that city right now. Whatever city it goes to, Super Bowl absolutely takes over. In New York City, that whole Super Bowl experience, if you were a block over, you didn't even know there was a Super Bowl in New York City. And the NFL did not like that at all. So they're not going back to New York anytime soon.
Well, it's kind of funny. I would say the second most predominant Comic-Con in the country is the New York Comic-Con. Mm-hmm. It was going on when I was there. You couldn't tell at all. Yeah. I think that hotel was less than a mile from the Javits Center where that was going on. And I didn't have a solid plan. I had a full day there. We flew in on a Thursday. I had all day Friday. And then the cruise went out on Saturday. And so I'm just looking in the morning, what do I want to do? And I went, I'm like, oh, shoot, New York Comic-Con, let me go to that. You couldn't get a single day ticket. It was sold out. But that's the other thing that's amazing. You're sitting there with so many options. I'm like, well, I'd like to go to the Metropolitan Museum of Art, never been there, but closer was the Museum of Modern Art. And man, I went and saw art pieces that I've only looked at in books, that I've only seen on TV, and I'm standing in front of freaking art that is like life-changing, culture-changing art, and it's just hanging on a wall in some nondescript building down a block in New York. And I was like, wow, this is living, baby. That's how I was feeling as I was there.
I think we're expanding our format, aren't we? We're going into like regular travel talk and cities and municipalities. This is what happens, huh?
Hey,
I saw your cruise
too. Part of cruising. You can get there. You can get there on a cruise ship.
One last thing that I wanted to talk about as far as the group cruise and you guys and stuff like that. And I've been trying to do this on my group cruise, and I can't get a group that gravitates towards this. But I love the karaoke thing. I saw a little. I saw you singing. There was some footage of you singing. You've always done a phenomenal job. You did the Garth Brooks on my group cruise. That was like the closest we've ever come. Give me some advice. How do I round these people up who just like to run around the ship and drink and be crazy? How do I get them to sit still for a nice little hour and a half, 2-hour karaoke session?
Well, this was special for us. Now, the beautiful thing, so Jenny B was a travel agent for a while, and she was a travel agent at the worst time, right during COVID. So she got really good. She's booked thousands of cruises, and I would say she's probably canceled thousands of cruises because of that COVID thing, and it really just burned her out. So we really didn't get deep into the next level of some of this stuff. Walter is a really good travel agent, and when we were putting this group cruise together, I'm like, hey man, can we spend some money and get some sort of events that we want? And he sent me Princess's price list over, and right there it said karaoke per hour for a private karaoke. And I was like, well, I've never done this. So I think for us, the way that it worked is, we paid for that room, we paid for the karaoke, and we had exclusive karaoke. So it was easy to say, hey, this is a group event, this is our goodbye event, and please come and sing. Now, unfortunately, I don't know if I want to do it again because I ended up singing a lot, and I wasn't looking to have a Tony concert. I just thought it would be fun. But then when nobody was singing, I'm like, okay, I'm going to sing another song. But I didn't know any of that video got out there. But man, we had some wonderful singers, and we had a good time. But to me, I guess that's what it is. The frustrating thing is, like, if you have a small group or something like that, and it can get expensive, right, to buy these rooms out or to buy that kind of stuff. So it's, I wish the cruise lines had better availability to where they could just give you more stuff, because we've struggled with that before too. Like, I remember we'd have a meet and greet, and we would just try to get everybody together, like on the Lido or something like that. It's just very hard. So what's worked well for us, and I don't know what's going to happen. So the only other group cruise we have is the La Lita Loca Bermuda Triangle group cruise. First time Norwegian sailed out of Philly in like 20 years or 15 years, something like that. I don't think anybody's selling out of Philly, but Norwegian's going to next year in April. It's going to go Philadelphia to Bermuda, down to Charleston, South Carolina, back up to Philadelphia. So it's the La Lita Loca Bermuda Triangle group cruise. I think we got 260 people on that right now. That's going to be a lot. But Walter's going to be on there with us running point, so I'm looking forward to that. But again, it's fun, and I love the fact that people want to get to take a picture and say hello and all that kind of stuff. And I'm still not convinced that group cruise is the way to do it, so I'm still trying to figure out a different model for that. I like the Vloggers cruise was an interesting endeavor also. It was at a weird time, and again, there was a lot of people cooking that thing up. But I think there were some really interesting aspects of the Vloggers cruise, and if you guys don't know what we're talking about, maybe 2021 or something like that, there was, I don't know how many content creators were on there, but we had some panels and stuff like that. I thought that was pretty neat. I kind of like that concept, but I'd like to figure out how we can do it in a way where it's easy to get a bunch of people together and give people the access that they want, and it maybe not have to be a 7-day cruise or something like that. So yeah, I don't know. But it's good. But again, I say this out there. We said it a little bit earlier. You can have a group cruise without it. It doesn't have to be tied to a content creator. So if you got 20 friends at your church or wherever you meet up at the local bar or something like that, if you got 20 people that like to cruise, you can work with a travel agent or you can work with a cruise company and maybe get some additional benefits for your cruise if you cruise together as a group. Cruise lines like it when groups of people come on their cruise line, and they will incentivize that with perks and those kind of things. So group cruises, I think it's probably really untapped. Like if you have a good friend group and you can get 10 to 15, 20 people, I don't even know what the minimum, if you get 10 people that want to cruise together, you could get a better rate on your cruise or some perks or something like that. So I would just say if you're out there listening and you got friends, or again, if you're out there and you don't have people that you cruise with and you have a common interest, a group cruise is a good way to make some friends.
And to that point, just to piggyback that point, also locking in pricing. You don't necessarily always get an incredible rate, but if you do put a block of rooms together, as the cruises are going up and all your deposits are in, those prices stay in place.
No, that is a beautiful thing. That's a great point because, yeah, we're so far out of the travel game, I kind of forget about that. A lot of times when a new ship will come out, an agent will say, okay, give me 50 rooms at this rate, and they can hold that sometimes for 6 months or something like that. And then again, to your point, I think if the agent will lay out the deposits, essentially they can keep selling that room, like you said, at that price when the whole world may be going crazy at a higher price. So that's
or collect. You know what I mean? You could also collect if you got people that are, listen, I can lock this in. First 50 people, if the agent's not necessarily high-powered enough right now to be able to lay it all out, if you're absolutely right. Prices on these cruises, this was a good example of that one. This one was borderline sold out for months in advance, and the rates that were in the beginning, now many people missed out on them, but the rates that were in the beginning, nothing compared to what they were, around the final payment date.
So I know there's a lot of highlights from your cruise that I want to talk about, but one of the things we talked about, I think last month, was my trip to Celebration Key, Carnival's new resort-style experience. You made it, right? You got to Celebration Key on this cruise?
Yes.
All right, man. Hit me. What's your initial thoughts or your coming back thoughts on Celebration Key?
All right, I want to start this, and I don't have a big long speech about it, but I do have. I want to start my comments on Celebration Key with proposing another show topic to you at some point.
Sure.
And I think a topic that maybe we want to talk about at one point is, because it's undeniable, Tony, the changes that are going on in cruising, whether you want to talk nickel and diming or it's becoming more, and the things that are taking away versus the things that are being added. And, where is the fine line between like kind of at least kind of pretending, some people will just, you have those travel agents out there and those content creators that like, oh, are you crazy? Everything is lovely. You realize what you'd have to pay. But the really honest truth is that things are kind of deteriorating in a lot of ways. And I would love to maybe have a conversation one day about finding the balance, about being honest about this, considerable amount of changes that are going on in this industry versus where you have to accept it, because you talk a lot about things that get taken away and then you have some non-negotiables. And I think in certain ways, they haven't necessarily completely encroached your non-negotiables, but they're getting a little close. They're getting in that area. And I guess I say that to say the first topic and the first conversation that I have about this is the fact that there's no open buffet barbecue on this island. And then they try to, I guess, kind of mask that up with kind of giving you some free meal. But then you have to kind of read some long list. This is okay as far as a free. I screwed it up. I thought it was just the food hall that you can get the free meal at. I didn't know there were some food trucks and some food bars and then some food RVs set up. Many different types of venues. I just went to the food hall. But yeah, it's the first thing that I have to say is that, don't tell me it's not a private island destination either, because that was the rebuttal. Well, this isn't necessarily supposed to be like Coco. Okay, it is. If you go to the top of that cruise ship, when you're pulling in and you look and you see where you're at, you see nothing. That was one of the first things that stood out to me, is that you are in the countryside. You are nowhere near Freeport. This is Labadee. This is Coco Cay. This is a private destination from Carnival. And yeah, Tony, I kind of want my barbecue buffet.
I think that's fair. I've thought about Celebration Key a lot and the choices that they've made there. I know that there's a huge partnership with the Bahamian government to allow them to do that. And so, again, transparency would be nice, right? Like, I think it's fair to raise your hand and say, every other private destination we've gone to, there's an included buffet. It's not strange at all for any cruiser to believe that there should be some sort of buffet on the private island. There not being one is the strangest thing. And so I think it's fair to raise your hand and say, hey, why is that? Like, why? Why? Because it makes no sense to us as cruisers. And I think we deserve that answer, honestly. And so you're just left to speculate. I gotta guess that maybe there's some sort of agreement. Because if you look at all those places that are selling food, they're taking credit cards. I feel like some of those might be Bahama business owners.
Yeah, of course. But just to rebuttal.
Maybe the exclusivity is like, look, you can't put a buffet on there because we're trying to sell food. Now, tell me that, though, because it's ridiculous for me to have to jump through the mental hoop of going, no buffet on Celebration Key like there is every other private destination.
And respectfully, I understand that. I understand you want to sell your food. I understand you want to, but these cruise lines, especially Carnival, there is obviously some leverage that they have. And if there's something that in the history of private islands and cruising that we're all used to, Carnival, you got to dig in a little bit more on that. I'm sure there was something else they could have conceded or paid outright. Put the thing in place. Put the regular buffet that we can get. Now, you know what? Make the buffet. Okay. Make it. You want to call it pedestrian, make it just basic, that's fine too. But put a buffet there, the grilled chicken, I always love, the burgers, the build your own tacos, all basic stuff. And then have your conch fritters, have your high level tacos, have your, whatever you want that's an elevated experience. I don't believe that that would have hurt. I think that, maybe, you wouldn't have, because that's one thing. The whole circumference of that island is lined, and there's so much good to talk about, and we will get to it. But that was the first thing to me. Like, in this world where we see cruising kind of just every day, you look up, what's being taken away today? What's being taken away today? Not to go overly negative, that is a standout to me. But I don't know if you want to continue on that or, some of the good things. I do love the fact that, did you have anything on that or no? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I do feel like I've been thinking about this a lot because as we track through the news or whatever, it is almost every day you open up the web browser and it's like, okay, well, this has changed. When I was on the Princess Cruise, things had changed. There wasn't a hot dog on room service. Seems insignificant, but you used to be able to get a hot dog delivered to your room for nothing. There's still a hamburger there. But that's weird. I mean, that's weird. I mean, it's one of those things. But I feel like there's a seismic shift going on in cruising now where the industry is resetting the game. I'll be bold and hopefully that they don't put a hit on me. I do believe that, not that would happen, just kidding. I believe there's a seismic shift going on in cruising now where much of the game is being reset. And a lot of that reset is a non-issue because of the influx of new cruisers and the willingness of prior cruisers to keep saying that cruising is the best value. That's the challenge. You have an immensely good value in cruising, and even when you're taking things away, you still have a really good value in cruising that I feel is better than some traditional land vacations. And so it almost gives the cruise industry some leeway to mess with that. And we're feeling a little bit of the pain with the mess. I think there's a seismic reset going on in cruising right now. The other thing I want to mention about the buffet is I know that on some of these private destinations, maybe it's Half Moon Cay or something like that, I think they bring the food from the ship. So not only they supply the island with the crew, but they also have to take the food over there. So it could be, again, because you're not telling us, cruise industry, it could be a thing where some whiz-bang with a calculator said, if we don't take the food over there, we save this amount of money per sailing. And some leader went, oh, that's good. That'll probably help down to the bottom line. So I think it's insane. So the challenge I have with Celebration Key, and we'll talk about the good things, is there's so many good things I feel about Celebration Key, but the food and drink aspect of it sucks. So I mean, but everything else makes you want to be there. What were some of the highlights for?
Well, what do you say? What do they say in corporate speak? We always dive into that a little bit. They say if you take over a company, or if you're a new boss, anybody you're going to fire them right away, right?
Yeah.
Don't drag it out. Gain the trust. Once you do the initial round of firings, now, okay, that's over. Now everybody there, you have their trust, you have their loyalty. What I'm seeing with the cruising, and like you said, the seismic shifting is probably accurate. And you know what? Business is business. The market's undefeated, so I do understand that. I still like cruising. I just wish that they would take everything away that they're going to take away, and then let's move on. Let's go on break from taking things away, right? Let's have that period. It seems like it's been going on for 2.5 years where now it's this. Now, well, can we do this? Maybe we can pull this away. Maybe we can pull that away.
The death by 1,000 cuts. I don't know if we got to talk about it on the last show, but Norwegian taking the drink package away from, what is it, Half Moon Key? Or is that
That's a big one, Tony. That's another huge
whichever one, yeah.
No, it's a Great Stirrup. Yeah.
That's insane. Like, that was one of my favorite things about that, right? And they're like, well, we want to give you a better experience by taking away the drink package. I'm like, what are you talking about?
For the environment, Tony. It's for the environment.
I wanted, what's my great experience? I've already paid for a drink package that I get on the cruise ship, and I could get at your private island. The great experience is to charge me again when I get on the island. Somebody make the math work for me. I can't make it work out.
No.
Yeah.
All right. So Celebration Key. I don't know how you felt. Like, I do know we talked about it, but first of all, I love how it's laid out. I really, really do like the convenience of how it's laid out. Everything, I guess, circumference, periphery is beach. That's where that is. But then once you get over that one main kind of like highway, that little track, you have everything. It's 100% right what people said. You go to the right, you're going to experience more of like a multi-generational family type of an experience. When you get around to the other side, you make your way all the way around. It gets a little bit more adult. And if you just want to get right to the party, here's the pro tip. If you want to get right to that party, just make the immediate left. But if you want to kind of see everything and kind of experience everything and some next level food trucks and stuff like that, you go to the right. You see everything. Everything is built around that beautiful overly impressive pool. I mean, what a pool.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's almost like a body of water, to be honest. And yeah, it is beautiful. There's so many places where you can stop. Kudos to them for having a lot of bathroom stations, changing stations, locker areas. You don't have to go too far to, you know, if you're walking around and you missed one, don't worry, another one's coming right up. A lot of different options. You know what the funny thing for me was? I guess we're getting back into the negative a little bit. You know, you're on a private island, and they're charging you for entrees and stuff like that. But then they're knocking 40% off some of the entree. Did you see that?
No, I didn't see that.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's a new sale they're doing. So it's like
a discount or something. Yeah.
Yeah, $24, $26, $18, $14. Oh, but it's a separate sign, 40% off all entrees. What are we at Macy's here? Like it's funny.
So crazy.
Yeah, but yeah, they had
Big
some good
sale on
options.
conch fritters or something.
Yeah, the conch fritters were there. I almost got the conch fritters. I didn't get them. I had a nice little Greek in the food hall. I went Greek, and it was good. It was. I shouldn't say good. It was totally palatable. But there's one point where I snapped because I spent most of the week going through everything. And this was interesting that this was on the last day of our cruise. Celebration Key was the last day of our cruise. Normally, I like to, you know, re-enter with a little bit of a sea day. No. So this was the last day of our cruise. And I was kind of going around the Vista, going around them, noticing the changes, kind of going with the flow. Oh, well, it doesn't matter. I love cruising. When I snapped a little bit was when I sat down to eat this Greek platter, this Greek plate. And, you know, I'm all for the environment too. Sustainable sporks. So it was like a little, and now I'm not saying you couldn't eat with it, but you had to focus and concentrate to not have the thing fold in half. Well, we don't need to be, can I eat without worrying if the fork's going to break? You know what I mean? It was so then I put a little video. You can with 2 fingers, you could collapse the whole fork by the end of your meal, whatever, this and that. But it is a beautiful, beautiful, well laid out place. That little sand castle is really, really nice to enter into. I love it. There's a really cool photo opportunity where kind of like the Celebration Key has a nice little sign where it kind of like, you know, makes a circle. You get this castle, you get the ship in the, you know, you can kind of put together a photo where the ship can be within like the beautiful sign that they have. And it's nice. It just flows really well. And that place, it's called Mingo's, I believe, is the spot where, and I love way, way above, you know, I used to love Coco, where you can kind of go and you can get a little bit of a swim up bar, DJ, enjoyable experience. They pulled that. Well, Carnival put it there. So on Carnival's version, there is a Mingo's venue where you can eat in or kind of be in the pool. And there is a DJ. If you wanted that little bit of a day club, Vegas-style experience, that's there for you. Lastly, yeah, I just walked over to the beach club. I forgot what the beach club is called. I don't remember. But, you know, the exclusive next level experience, you know, I couldn't go in because I just saw it and kind of, but it looked nice. It looked like it was nice from outside. So overall, I think it's a beautiful place. There's pros, there's cons. All of it is a win, a win, a win, except, like I said, for me, yeah, I'm over the fact that Carnival doesn't let you use the drink package on the islands. That's just, that's since the beginning of time. But I just wish they had an open bar barbecue where I can get some good grilled food and kind of build my own plate, you know?
So other than the food, do you think that this is a viable competitor with a perfect day experience?
I do. I think it's just as good as Coco, 100%. I would say, yeah, I like the fact that it's easier to navigate. You're not going to get the same level of thrills with the water park. That's not going to be there. That water park is just, I mean, that doesn't speak to me, though. So families, obviously, that would be a thing. You know, Coco might be a little bit more elaborate in some ways. But overall, I think it's right there. Carnival has some things that Coco doesn't have. And Coco has some things that Celebration Key doesn't have.
Yeah, and I think this is just stage one of Celebration Key. So I think down the road, maybe there's a more extensive family and water park area. I think if I'm thinking about it from a macro perspective, I think that's what Carnival was trying to get at. They needed something, you know, Royal to me, Royal's leading the industry right now. They have the most expensive cruises, right? For the most part, in that mass market area, but they're also drawing tons of people down for that, hey, let's just go to a Coco Cay. Let's just go to a beach type environment. And I think if you're a leader over at Carnival, and obviously that was the case where they went, well we got to have something like that. We got to get there. Norwegian now trying to do their enhancements to a great Stirrup Key with the water park and the pool. They're going, hey, we got to do that too, because people are vacationing just to go to a private island. As crazy as that seems to some people, you talk to some people like, I never would want to go to a private island. I think there's a large segment of the population that are completely happy with just going to a private island. And so Carnival needed to have their version of it to compete with Royal. And of course, Norwegian needs that too. MSC's right there in the middle with their island trying to get that same thing going on. So I think Carnival's accomplished it. I love the fact that they had so much free seating with umbrellas. I mean, it's amazing, because if you think about it, if you go to the Bahamas, if you go to just a public beach or something like that, most of the time you're getting banged into for money for seating, and they solved that problem pretty well. I will continue to say, because of that tram system, it's easy to get back on the ship. And so another solution to the food, not that you want to break your day in half, but if you dock early, go get yourself some fun in the sun. You want to go eat, come back to the ship, eat lunch, and then go back. It's not the most convenient thing, but there are ways around spending a lot of money on Celebration Key. But if you're a drinker, and I don't know if that was the takeaway for you, I mean, I had one drink there, and it was $17 or $18 for a rum punch. Yeah. If you're somebody that's going to drink, you're going to drop $2, I think, to have the kind of drinking experience that you want. And to me, that's expensive, right? Like, okay, I'm just going to go out and have drinks, or because I think your Cheers package still works on the ship. So, you could be pounding drinks down on the ship for gratis, for included. And now all of a sudden you're dropping $2 on the island just so that you can drink, football filled away from the ship. I don't think there's any way, this is definitely a trend. Hopefully Royal doesn't jump on that bandwagon and the drinks stop working at their private island. But, yeah, it's a wild scenario. I mean, I think there are some. I think you could probably take a Stanley Cup off the ship with a drink or two in it too, to Celebration Key. But I'm not sure they would stop you. But I think overall it's going to be a success for Carnival.
Yeah, I got another hack too. Very specific hack. If you go to the Greek place in the food hall, you choose your protein, you choose your base, and then you choose your toppings. Okay, they got some good toppings there. The cucumbers, the tzatziki sauce, or the olives. The feta cheese. Feta cheese shouldn't be. It should be a cheese category. But I need tomatoes and I need lettuce on there. So that's 2 of my toppings right there of the 3. So now, all right, I'm going to get cucumbers on top of that, or feta. Don't choose the cucumbers. Don't choose the lettuce. Get whatever else you want, because at the Fixins bar they have lettuce and tomato laid out for free right next to where the drink machines are. So don't waste your that's the thing too. Just like so many things you got to know about. You have to pick, okay, where do I go? Okay, so where do I get a ticket for the free meal? Do I get this? How do I, there shouldn't be this much thinking involved. It should just be kind of like, free and easy as you go.
And it sounds like it's hit or miss. Your food sounds good, man. The chicken sandwich I had for my free meal and fries was a disaster. I didn't like it at all. I didn't like
cut
it
it, huh?
No, it wasn't very good. Man, now you got me thinking. There's a Greek place in town that doesn't include something with the gyro. It's like maybe there's no olives or no feta, and I'm like, how do you not put feta in the dang? I don't know. Yeah. That's a whole nother thing. Well, so, we talked a lot about theme cruises, group cruises, certainly a lot more to say, but let's swing over into some current events. Now, I haven't spent a lot of time just because I was out cruising. You've been out cruising. I didn't spend a lot of time digging around current events, but, I guess let's keep the theme going a little bit. Changes. Changes. Norwegian Cruise Line comes out and says, hey, the daily freestyle paper that we put in your cabin, like some other cruise lines, we're not going to do that anymore. You can get all that information on your mobile device. We're not doing away with it. If you're somebody that loves that piece of paper, call down to guest services and we'll do what we can to get it delivered to your room, but we're not giving it to everybody just automatically, or it's going to be scattered throughout the cruise ship. This isn't a new trend. It seems like, this is Norwegian coming later to a thing that's already going on. What do you feel about this? Do you care either way? Do you like the paper? Are you okay using your phone? Does this signal anything else going on in cruising?
No, it's just that this probably would have. It's like, these things happen in stages, and like, if you told me this maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, I would have been like, oh, that sucks. But like now I'm like, okay, no problem. But can you put the hot dog back on the room service menu? You know what I mean? It's like what you want to kind of like deal with. So based on a lot of the changes that are going on and some of the things, I'm okay with this. You know what I mean? I found myself, I did like the fun times. I like the, the Freestyle Daily and the Cruise Compass. I was a regular reader, I should say. And I do kind of enjoy that time, whatever part of your room during whatever activity you like to do and read through those types of things, the reading material, feel free. But yeah, now I've gotten used to kind of just popping it up on the app and on the phone. So I don't know. What do you think about it? I'm pretty much okay with it.
I'm okay. I carry my phone all the time. I know not everybody does, but the weirdest thing, and maybe it's old man syndrome or something like that, but at least on the Freestyle Daily or Princess Pat or whatever Fun Times, after day one, I kind of knew where, like, say, the hours of operations for all the restaurants were, right? It's always on the back right corner or wherever it's at. You get it the first time. You get it and you remember it the first time you read the paper. For some reason, I struggle in these apps to get back to places. It's like, oh, I found out what, I found a button I could push to figure out what time the restaurant was open, and if I could just get back to that. That's the only thing. I mean, two things I miss about paper. And again, it's nice if you still have the paper. I do like the highlight. I like the highlight because I like visual cues, right? So if you got these things highlighted and you know what time of day it is, you're like, okay, I need to be thinking around noon that I got to look and see what that highlighted thing is. That's not as obvious on the phone. You got to get in the app. You got to see what you hearted, that kind of thing. You can't just stick it on a magnet on the wall. So I missed the paper for that. But then I also missed the easy recall of where I need to go to find the information that I want. But it's not a game change. It's not a game ender for me. But look, Tommy, I'm not trying to guilt trip you, but we got to think about the environment, man. I mean, whatever these cruise lines can be more sustainable and save us from food waste and paper waste and energy waste and fuel emissions and animal conservation, whatever it takes. And because they keep telling me that's why they're doing all this stuff. Now,
the nobility is overwhelming. I mean, it's just so noble, and kudos to them. That's why they make the big bucks. Good for them.
I have a meter that's associated with something that smells poor, and it tends to go off. It tends to go off every time.
How dare you?
I know. The only other piece of news, I'm getting ready to record my show. I haven't done a cruise show in a while for the La Lita Loca channel. I'm getting ready to record that. One of the main topics is...
Will it be for your face, though?
It will be for your face.
Okay.
It's got to be for your face.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a big, interesting conversation around that. Apparently... And I looked it up. Google told me this, that not your face consists of your eyes and your ears, of course, your mouth and your nose. And so that's really, when I say it's for your face, I want people to know you can listen to it or you can see it. But some people get mad. They're like, my ears are not a part of my face.
Wow.
They're not a part of my face. I'm like, okay, whatever you want to say. But the show's for your face regardless. There's a video that's circulating around on TikTok that is double shocking. It's a video of at least one kid standing on a balcony and then two of his other kids that he's with climbing on the rails of the balcony of what looks to be a Royal Caribbean ship. I don't know that it is 100%, but it's got those yellow lifeboats. Some people are saying it's the Harmony of the Seas. And they are standing on the balcony with their arms stretched, holding they're standing in the gap that exists between the railing of the balcony and the top of the deck. And they are extending their bodies out over the open ocean. I know you've seen the clip. That is one of the most... Look, I remember being young and thinking nothing could kill you, but I'm pretty sure that'll kill you. You fall off of there.
Tony, let the kids have fun, will you?
Yeah. Kids will be kids.
No, I saw it. Yes, I did. You showed it to me. And that, just by what your mind's eye is used to seeing, just that visual is an absolute jaw-dropping shock. I mean, just watching a kid. And it wasn't like they were just doing it to try to get from one to the other. Listen, I hate to say this because, everybody gets mad. I'm like, always a climber. As a kid, teenager, I just loved elevation. I love climbing trees, like taking a chance, going on top of the day. Look at that building in town. That's the biggest building in town. I wonder what we have to do to get on that roof. Always what I was doing. But yeah, there's a limit when you're talking about, just what is out there. And the great blue wide open yonder, whatever they call it, and how much of just a no return trip that is. If you slip, if you don't know, you grab onto something, it's going to have like a little, listen, everything I'm saying right now doesn't make a difference. There's absolutely no excuse. And, people want to run and blame the parents, but who are we kidding? These parents you're not following the kid around. You don't have the kid on a leash, especially when they get into those mid-teens age, and that's a whole problem. That's probably another topic for a show too. In the cruise groups, they're on fire with just the overall general behavior of teens. I'm a little mixed with it. You know what? You got to let them have fun, but there's got to be a limit. But getting back to what we're talking about, yeah, I mean, absolutely shocking. You don't know what could happen. The railing could be wet. A gust of wind could hit. Maybe a little bit of a slightly rogue wave could happen. There are too many things that are beyond your control, no matter what age you are, to be thinking that is anything close to acceptable, and that's absolutely terrifying. What would you think? Let me ask you, God forbid, but what would you think if your kids were fine, but you're cruising with your kid and everything's fine, but when you get back from the cruise, you see that video and it's one of your teenage kids doing that? How would you react?
I would never take them on a cruise again. This is one of the biggest fears as a parent, is anything tragic happening to your kids, and you know that your kids are making stupid decisions, and there's just no way I would ever take them on a cruise again. Obviously, you discipline the kids, but kids. I climbed on stuff. It's crazy, but it's so dangerous when you see this video clip. It's insane. The interesting thing, as you were talking about, I'm like, if something happened to the kids, I wonder if the parents would sue. That's a whole different thing. Like, on one side, we say, well, parents can't keep track of their kids all the time. But then, on the other hand, like, would these parents sue if something bad happened to the kid? Look, I know that you've taken some classes and that you got your full certification. When I think about, like, when I'm creating something and I'm thinking, is this clickbait or is this not clickbait? I'm saying, who would know? Tommy Casabona. Let me share with you my, so I always make my thumbnails before I record my show, and then I try to tailor my show toward the thumbnail. I'm going to share with you today's thumbnail, and we'll play the game of, is this clickbait or is this not clickbait? Are you up for it?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right, here it comes. Let me know. Can you see that?
Ban cruise balconies. Is that clickbait?
Is that clickbait?
Tony, you know my position on clickbait. While once I think, I don't know if you knew, my official position was the clickbait warden. I know.
I didn't read your position statement. I looked for it on the website and I didn't get to it.
Well, that's what I was, the czar. I was the clickbait czar.
The clickbait czar.
Yeah. But I have softened up in this ever-changing world. While this is clickbait, this is acceptable clickbait.
Okay, good. Well, this will be the topic for the cruise show today. Is it time to ban all cruise balconies? Which obviously is an absurd thing, but I can imagine some people out there calling for the ban of. I
got selfish reasons too here. Please, parents, don't let your kids climb on the balconies, so that you could subsequently sue, and then I have to pay double for all my room service to make up for the cost of having to deal with the lawsuits. So can we please?
Hot dog.
Exactly. They'll bring the hot dog back. Just everybody just exercise good judgment. And yes, as I say that, it does sound ridiculous coming from me. 100%.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know if we're trying to have some sort of any kind of responsible takeaway. I guess talk to your kids before you go cruising and tell them not to climb on the outside of the cruise ship, or they could perish. I don't know. It's so bizarre. Look, man, a great conversation today, Tommy. That is Tommy Casabona. He is your host for the Always Be Booked Cruising Podcast. That's a weekly program that you can get anywhere that you get your cruising podcast. And also, he's got a real rich library of videos on YouTube going to different ports and having different conversations and covering different things. Check out Always Be Booked both on podcast and on video form. I'm Tony for La Lita Loca. You can find me on La Lita Loca. And this is Cruise Talk Weekly, the preeminent best. I think we could be the GOAT of shows called Cruise Talk Weekly. Don't you think?
We do talk.
I don't think there's another one.
It is weekly. Well, you know what? It will be weekly now. We missed the week.
Look, I screwed up. Mea culpa.
I don't blame you for that. I don't blame you for that. We both.
Tommy took his whole rig on a machine on a ship so that we could make the episode, and we made the episode, and then it was my turn next week, and I couldn't pull it off. So apologies for the week delay. That's completely my bad. But yeah, I mean, hopefully we can keep it weekly. It's good. I like it.
Yes.
Look, we've been getting some really positive reviews on Apple for the podcast. So if you're listening to us and you're listening on Apple, you've made the right choice. No, please, we love all the Android people out there too. I don't want to start the Apple Android word, but give us a review and come check us out. If you want to see our lovely faces, we do have a video version of this podcast on the YouTube, on the Cruise Talk Network. Come over there and watch it there and all of those things. Thank you guys so much for being here. And Tommy, always good to talk to you.
Shout out to Chris Jericho. Thanks, Tony.
That's right. AEW, baby. All right, man. We'll see you. Bye.
See ya.
And it's a winning, never to lose. When we talk about vacation, though, it's always a cruise. It's Tony and Tommy with a TNT schmooze. Cruise Talk Weekly and we lighten the fuse.